was younger, I used to think at 25 years old, I would be married and I'd be on the way to having a first child. But I'm 25 years old now and I am still single. Still sexy as well. Hello, my sweethearts. So sexy, single and child free at 25 will be divided into 4 chapters. Chapter 1, my first romantic experience. Chapter 2, sexy but single. Chapter 3, childless, not child free. And chapter 4, marriage is never the goal. Chapter 1, my first romantic experience. When I was younger, the romantic relationships, now I like to call them romantic experiences, because if it was up to me, I would say that I've never been in a proper relationship before. But I know some people would beg to differ. And so this has resulted into just me saying romantic experiences. I wanted to start this episode off with this chapter because it kind of gives a little bit of a backstory on why I'm still single at 25 years old. My earliest romantic experience was when I was very, very, very young, earliest of the early teen. But when I look back at that experience, it was such a mature relationship. There were so many good things I liked in that experience, and he was very, very good to me. He was a good person and he is a good person. So if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, I hope you're living your best life, and I hope you're happy. As an adult looking into these young relationships, sometimes it's easy for us to judge. Oh, they're so young, they have so much to learn. But I have to remind myself that young people do have the capability to be in mature relationships, because I myself have been in one. The things I loved in that experience was the fact that him and I were very secure in ourselves. And I think the main reason for why this was because we hadn't really been through things prior that hurt us, traumatized us in some way, so we were able to trust each other 100%. We had very little insecurities. He was only a month, I think, older than me, but he led me very well. He was known by everyone to be very mature for his age, and he seemed like a few years older than us. Him and I never had jealousy issues, despite the fact that I had so many close guy friends and he had so many friends that were girls as well. We maintained our individuality, so he would do things on his own. He had his own hobbies, his own things that he wanted to do alone, and I was the same. Compared to certain relationships that I was seeing where they would end up being very dependent on each other, like stuck to the hip. No one could do anything with the other person. You know, the couples that only come in pairs, they don't ever come separately. But we were the complete opposite. We were individual people, 2 separate people forming a partnership. And I think the main reason for that was because our foundation was friendship. I remember I actually went on a school trip and he didn't end up going, but he was telling all his boys to look out for me, and he was telling me to just have fun. Whenever he wasn't physically around me, he would always find a way to make sure that I was okay. He was the type that you know, would just take care of things. He would lead. I could just turn my brain off because I knew he's got it. He's just got it. I don't ever remember a time that he would get mad at me or get angry at me. We never had fights at all, but obviously I'm just a girl. Sometimes I'm hormonal, sometimes it's the time of the month. So there are a few times I remember that I'd get annoyed at him, but every single time he would actually just try and make things right. It was just sweet. So I am so grateful that I had that first romantic experience with him because he was really good to me. We were together around, I think, 6 months. That might not seem a lot when you're an adult, but school relationships are quite intense in regards to me and him were in the same school, in the same classes. Sometimes we'd be together after school, sometimes on the weekends. So it was like 6 months of... Whereas if it was a relationship as an adult, or like you're dating as an adult, you probably wouldn't be seeing each other that much. Now when you're a Filipina girl like me, you're not allowed to have a boyfriend because having a boyfriend equates to getting pregnant and dropping out of school early. Apparently. I knew when I entered certain romantic experiences with him and other guys, there would be an end. To me, I knew it was an experience. Even though he was the first guy that I had feelings for in more than a friendship way, at the time I did think, is this what love actually feels like? Is this what love is? Or is this puppy love? Or is this infatuation? But despite these questions I asked myself, I always knew from day one I wasn't gonna marry this guy. This is where the term heartless and an ice queen started to become identified with me. I ended up ending things. I actually couldn't give a reason, a negative reason why, because everyone knew, all my friends, all the teachers as well, they were always also invested in my relationships too. They knew how good he was to me. People would always describe the guys I've had romantic experiences with as guys who'd give you the world. My reasoning for ending it was that I just knew the experience had ended. I didn't necessarily feel the same anymore. Now, whenever I've said this in the past, people would just call me emotionless. During the breakup stage as well, my friends cried. People around me were just so fully invested in my relationships that it was like they were the ones grieving that the relationship ended. They were the ones probably more heartbroken than I was. This is why my friends would always say like I'm just so heartless, because I wouldn't cry but they would cry. They'd be bawling their eyes out. So many people talk about getting broken up with, but not many people talk about being the person doing the breaking up, doing the ending. Isn't nice either. You wish that you didn't inflict hurt on this person you spent so much time with and made so many memories with, but at the same time you will be hurting yourself and hurting the other person more for staying in a relationship you know you've mentally and emotionally clocked out of. Because I was always the one to end things in my romantic experiences growing up, I always had this thought, do you know what, it's not even a thought, I know that for me, I would actually find it easier if a man broke up with me. Even now, that's how I think. Because I know how I handle hurt. I know I can get over it. And to be honest, I would just probably look better, feel better, be better. I actually would just glow up probably 1000% of the time without feeling any guilt in the world. Whereas me ending things, it's like I have to stay with this guilt that I've hurt someone. Now, luckily, after the relationship ended, I actually did find out that he cheated on me. For a long time, I didn't think he necessarily cheated on me, because when I was younger, my definition of cheating was that actions only. If you kissed someone or you did something physical, that's cheating. But now I'm grown, I realised cheating is more than actions. You know, it could be messaging, it could be it could be all of these things. It's more complex than that. So then when I look back, I realised, oh, he actually did cheat on me. The girl he cheated on me with was actually my best friend at the time. Double whammy. But with me, I'm actually a very calm person. People think I go crazy or I go psycho. I'm the complete opposite. They both took accountability when it came out, and they were sorry, they apologized to me, and after 2 days I actually let it go very quickly. I spoke to them and it was all good. I was friends with them again. I remember, this is a core memory, when we had that chat, he was there, stood in front of me, right? And he was like, I know, like, yeah, just slap me in the face, just punch me. He was trying to take my hand, so like I physically hurt him, you know, because he knows what he did. He was so dramatic, but not once did he ever blame me for his actions. He just put his hands up, admitted it, he made a mistake and apologized. To me, I respect that, because I have met guys who get caught out and then they deflect and lie even when they've got caught out, and then they would blame you for their actions. To me, even though that happened, he was still a good person, and my experience with him will always be a positive memory that I'm grateful for. As they say, good people can also make bad choices, but that doesn't make them bad people. I actually was very relieved when I found out that he did do the madness in the relationship, because before that it was like I was living with this guilt that I hurt someone. So when it came out, it felt like that guilt vanished, and it also just reassured me that my decision was 100% the best thing to do. That first romantic experience fulfilled me so much at such a young age. So I think that's one of the reasons why I never really had the urgency to seek romantic relationships or to date casually. It also taught me so much of the things I want in my next relationship. For example, I want my man, whoever that is, to be his own person. I'm my own person. He has his own happiness, his own desires. I have my own happiness, own desires. We're not dependent on each other. Chapter 2. Sexy, but still single. People assume that attractive women receive lots of male attention and are constantly approached because societal standards suggest that beauty equates to desirability. In reality, the more confidence you have as an attractive woman, especially if you also possess the intelligence, the kindness, the more intimidating it can be for guys to approach you. Loads of guys won't even try because they think you're out of their league. So many times I've heard guys also say that they will look at a girl's Instagram page or their highlights and they'll base whether they'll approach a girl off of that. So that's why I don't get any DMs, huh? But there's also other guys who will approach you because they want their ego to be fulfilled. When they're suddenly in the presence of these baddies, their insecurities become very, very, very loud. They'll do their best to try and humble you. You think you're all that. You're so vain. You just love yourself. Yeah, I do, babe. And you are the weakest link. Goodbye. When you're a sexy girl, you know what I'm saying? You get a lot of lustful men desire you. Do you know what the most unappealing thing a man has? It's their lack of sexual discipline. Also, do you know what as well? I find that some guys only like the idea of you they have in their head, the fantasy version. They'll want you, have feelings for you, but they won't actively pursue you. It's like their actions don't come with their words sometimes. People often tell me that I'm so pretty, so they don't understand why I'm still single. And then they'll follow up with, it's probably because your standards are too high. But I actually wouldn't describe myself as someone with high standards. The truth is, every standard I have set for myself now has actually already been met by the males I've been around. Back when I was at school, I was always surrounded by so many close guy friends, and I'm really grateful because they all treated me so well. One time, I remember I was upset about something and I texted my guy friend that I wasn't feeling good. Within a few minutes of sending that message, I could see him rushing over to me to see if I was okay. Bearing in mind, he actually came from the other side of the school. There was another guy friend that I had. We were in class and I think I mentioned something about being always cold, and then he was talking about how, I think he said his mum handmade this scarf for him or something, and the very next day he brought the scarf in for me to wear. The funniest thing, okay, that day when he gave me that scarf, it was actually really sunny, so it was really hot, but I found it so sweet and I felt bad if I didn't wear it, so I literally was just carrying around this massive wool scarf with me all day, even though it was so hot. I actually just have so many stories of how my guy friends were just all so sweet and so cute. Also, when I was in the Philippines recently, this topic would come up and then people would say to me that it's gonna be very hard to find a guy like my father. So the assumption that my standards are too high or they're unattainable and that's why I'm single is actually false. So why am I still single if I've been around guys who my girlfriends would describe as guys who'd give you the world? People then say, you're probably just so picky. Or they say to me that I must be the problem and I have loads of red flags. I noticed when you're single for so long, we always have to find a justification or a reason for why this is. Why haven't we found the one yet? It's not really about being picky either. It's more so I know God has only made one man for me. So it's more about recognizing if this man has been brought to me by God. The way I think about this, because I've been single for over a decade, would I rather be in a 10-year relationship and then after them 10 years we break up and I learn that he's actually not for me? Or would I rather be patient and be willing to wait until God has made me and my man into the people we need to become for us to be aligned? I want to find my person. I want to do cute lover girl things. I want to go on vacation, do all the love things that come with a romantic relationship. And I read this quote once: the thing you want is actually waiting for you. So the reason why I'm still single is because I still need to learn all the things I need to learn and do all the things I need to do as a single girl. So when that person comes to me, we've already become the people who we needed to become to be together. I've met guys who tick all these boxes, but afterwards I know I'll never see them again. Because I knew that person wasn't my person. There was no connection at all. And one of my friends said to me once, but what does it take for you to have this connection? And I actually don't know. It's like your soul just knows. You may not understand, you may not be able to explain it, but there's something in you that just knows. I'm not looking for a man. I'm waiting on my man that God has made for me. Also, these recent years, I have come to learn how much red flags I have. Toxic traits and insecurities I gained from certain experiences in the past. And also this year, 25 years living on this earth, I learned that I have an avoidant attachment style. I would rather run away than to actually communicate my feelings. I expect a man to just know my mind, my thoughts, the things I want and don't want, without actually communicating myself in a way that they can understand me. The thing is, my mentality with that, I go back and forth with this. I don't want to have to tell a man what to do. I want him to treat me however he wants to. I want him to do whatever he wants to do, and I'll just observe what he does. But that's where I've had so many of my friends come and check me for it. They'll say to me that that man probably just didn't know that's what you wanted because you didn't say anything to him. My friends know what I'm like also. Every single advice they'll give me is, you need to speak to him, you need to communicate, you need to say something. Do I ever take their advice? No, I don't. I don't take their advice. Because in my head I'm thinking, he needs to speak to me, he needs to communicate with me, he needs to... That's a toxic trait, isn't it? That's a red flag that I've got. At least I'm self-aware, you know what I'm saying? I've come to notice how sometimes I would become very impulsive and I would act out of emotion. The first thing I want to do, because I have an avoidant attachment style, is block, delete, remove, goodbye, see you later. And then I'll calm down and then I'm like, hold on a minute, was I actually overreacting? You know, I asked this man one time and I asked him if he's scared of love and he said yes. During that time I was very apprehensive with that answer. I'm like because in my head I was thinking, if you fear love, then would that not hold you back from loving me or treating me in the fullest capacity that I want to be loved? Now I'm a little bit more grown, I actually realised that I too had been doing things out of fear. I just don't think I admitted it to myself at the time. I've realised nobody is actually scared of love in itself. Every single one of us wants to experience love. What we're scared of is the hurt that comes with love. The amount of love you can give could end up being the same amount of hurt you could receive. So it's like, are you willing to take on that risk, or will you let the fear take power over you? I do believe love is a choice. You can't help who you have feelings for, but you constantly make the choice of staying even when you don't want to. Also, I've learned love is unconditional. You cannot have conditions on when to love or when not to love someone. You have to accept a person for every part of them, for who they are, not who you want them to be. Because if you can't, you have to let them go. So even though I've been single for a long time, God has kept me single because this was the only way I could learn all these things. My red flags, or my toxic traits, my views and expectations on love. The timeline of my life isn't up to me. I don't work on my time. Even when I get impatient sometimes, I get impatient a lot of the times, to be honest. Even when I want my man to literally be with me now ASAP, I have to remind myself it's always in God's timing. I need to learn all the things that is required to maintain and sustain a healthy relationship. So when God says it's time, me and my future man would have already formed a solid foundation because of the self-awareness and knowledge that we gained in our single years. He better be single. Chapter 3, childless, not child-free. We do know that as women, if we want to have children, we are on a body clock. Biologically, our chances of conceiving do decrease the older we get because the quantity and quality of the eggs we do have get smaller. There's also more risk of pregnancy complications and genetic anomalies, abnormalities that could be passed on to the baby. So there is this part of me that understands why society pushes pregnancy during a certain age. In the Philippines, especially in the provinces, teen pregnancy is very much prevalent, and it would then correlate to girls dropping out of school to fulfill traditional gender roles. Growing up, everyone around me, and also especially I'm coming from an immigrant family, they would tell me not to have a boyfriend because this may lead to me getting pregnant, leading me to dropping out of school, leading me to ruin my life. Basically, now I'm 25, I've started to get the questions of when am I going to have children. Both my sisters will always tell me that I should actually just have a child already because they want to be aunties ASAP. Even though I escaped teen pregnancy, being the oldest, you naturally become the third parent to your younger siblings. My youngest sister is a decade younger than me. I remember looking after her, playing with her, changing her nappies, making her milk, feeding her. And earlier she was literally like, oh sis, one of my earliest memories was when you were like lifting me up and playing with me, and then both my sisters come to me for emotional support. They're literally both so obsessed with me. To be honest, too obsessed with me sometimes. I'm like, guys, please, I need space. I am the oldest of 14 cousins. I am the first daughter, first granddaughter. So with that comes a lot of responsibility, you know what I'm saying? Do you know what as well? There was a time when both my sisters, they actually sometimes get so soppy. They were saying to me how they really appreciated me because of how I mothered them. They're literally both so obsessed with me. There was a time when I was in the Philippines, all the children in the area would come to our house, like the terrace bit, and I would actually do like activities with them, like maths lesson, English lesson, till it got to a point where every single day they would all come to the house, and every day just more and more children would come, so the terrace would be filled. Even when it was raining, thunderstorming, all they wanted to do is come over. Even when school started, they'd go to school. After school, they'd go home to get changed out of their school clothes and go straight to the house to come see me. And then even on weekends, right, they'd wake up really early and they'd come over and ask if I've woken up. Obviously a lot of the times I'd still be sleeping, but they were also cute. And I remember on the last day I was obviously going back to England, and when they were saying their goodbyes, they were all crying. It was actually really sad. There's actually so many women I've spoken to who actually choose not to have children, and even women who are married, they'll tell me that they don't plan on having children at all. And I personally don't blame them, because when you get pregnant, your physical body changes. It will never look the same. Your hormones change. You go through physical and mental pain, morning sickness. You can't bend down. Your belly gets heavier, so you find it harder to do things. Then you have to go through the pain of labour. And when I have really bad cramps, when I have period pain, I actually do question whether I even want to get pregnant or not, because I'm in pain on my period. But when you're going through pregnancy, when you're going through labour, it's like 100 times more pain. Also, like when you have children as well, it is a lot of responsibility. So I don't blame people for not wanting to have children. I think because I grew up with such a like nurturing and maternal instinct, I do want to have children, But the thing is, before I get pregnant, I will have a husband. I am not having a baby with just anyone. I ain't having a baby with a baby daddy. That man is my husband, the father of my children. I want a man who, more than anything, wants to be a husband and wants to be a father. That's the most important thing. I have met a guy before who, he knew that I love kids, so I asked him if he liked kids, and he said he doesn't, like he finds them annoying, or like he was saying something about kids in a negative way. So in that moment I knew him and I weren't compatible at all. Pregnancy and having children is also not just for the vibes, you know. You have to evaluate the qualities of a man. If he has the capability of handling me during hormonal changes, because girl, my hormones now when I'm on my period is up and down. So when I get pregnant, if I get pregnant, the hormones will be skyrocketing up and down. Would he be able to handle that during labor and childbirth? Girl, is he gonna be able to handle that? Also, women risk postpartum depression. So is my man gonna be taking care of me all throughout this? I saw a video the other day of a woman, she just gave birth, and her man was calling her lazy for not making him a cup of tea or something. And she was saying to him how she literally wanted to just rest because she just gave birth. She pushed a baby out, went through the pain of labour, is adjusting to the hormonal and physical changes her body had gone through. And do you know what he says? He says to her that she's been doing nothing, she's just been lying there. He says to her that he was the one doing all the things with the baby. He's doing all these things. She's doing nothing. So why can't she do such a small task of making him a cup of tea? See, this is why you have to choose very, 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 very wisely on who you have babies with. I will take my time, because the last thing I want is having a baby with them type of boys. Chapter 4. Marriage is never the goal. Women have been conditioned to think that if you're not married by 25, then less men will find you appealing, so your chances of marriage will decrease because your expiration date is looming. I'm so scared. I recently shared that I think people should date to experience, not date to marry. Some people argue that this mindset sets me up to get hurt, but I believe it's quite the opposite. People are experiences. Nobody belongs to us. When you date to experience, you appreciate the person for who they truly are. You're not constantly fixated on evaluating them based on some idealized checklist of what a perfect husband should be. Instead, you're open to learning from them, understanding their perspectives, and enjoying your time together as it is. This approach fosters genuine connections, so you're focused on the person in front of you, not the potential role they might play in the future. This doesn't mean I don't assess the man. I have met guys, and there have been times where I thought, okay, these qualities are things I don't want in a husband or the father of my children, so I know I won't be seeing them again. But the mindset of experiencing rather than date to marry prioritizes enjoying the present moment without the pressure of future expectations. It makes me grateful for each encounter as they help solidify my own needs and desires. My ultimate goal is not to marry. Instead, the goal is to sustain a healthy relationship. I saw a girl on TikTok also explaining how historically marriages were used to trap women for free labor. It was a tool to uphold the patriarchy, ensuring women were used for reproductive power. Women become a man's property, which is why children traditionally take the man's last name to carry on his bloodline and ensure inheritance went to the son. The purpose of marriage was for men to know which children were theirs, allowing them to be unfaithful, while women had to be faithful. And in wealthy bloodlines, marriage often functioned as a business agreement to preserve wealth. From a young age, we are taught to mold ourselves so a man will marry us. We're told we need to do things to be chosen by men. However, the marriages I've witnessed firsthand, they don't promote marriage to me. They do the complete opposite. Marriage is beyond feelings and connection. It requires someone who is responsible, accountable, willing to grow, faithful, and financially capable. I do want to get married. I do want to wear the white dress. I do want the ring on my finger before I have a baby. Marriage is a desire, not a goal. When you make marriage the goal, you risk picking a man for the sake of attaining the goal. You might refuse to see how this man isn't actually the person God has made for you because you're tunnel visioned on the goal. I have seen too many married people who are married but they don't have a healthy relationship. When the goal is to continuously sustain a healthy relationship instead of putting the marriage as the goal, you focus on building a strong, supportive and loving partnership, and then the marriage will follow naturally. So I don't feel rushed at all. I used to think at 25 I'd want to get married, but as I've said, we work on God's timing, not our own. I also very much need to learn a man first, even before thinking of marriage. The older women who have been married for a long time will tell me the exact same things. Pick your husband wisely. The man you choose to partner with will affect everything in your life. Does this man want to be a husband more than anything? A lot of the times, men will want wives without actually wanting to be husbands. I don't want to marry a rich man. I want to marry a man who provides. They're two different things. A man can have all the money in the world, but in relationships, money can be used as a power tool. When there's power, there's control, and I will not be controlled. He might give you all his money, but how much love, care, consideration is he providing? How much emotional safety, emotional intelligence, how much respect is he providing? A man and his money does not excite me. The depth of a man's character is more important to me than the material possessions he owns. Can I build a strong, supportive, loving partnership with this man or not? That is the question. Does this man inspire me and support me? Does he want me to be better? Is he helping me reach my highest potential? Guys think they're competing with other guys for me, when in reality, you're competing with me for me. My views on marriage have actually changed significantly from when I was younger. Back then, my friends and I used to have Pinterest boards of how our weddings were going to be. I actually still have mine. Obviously, my board would have the massive dress, the massive cake, the massive ring, the massive venue. The bigger, the better. Looking back, I realised marriage only appealed to me because I thought it would mean having a massive wedding. I used to think, how can people get married and not have a wedding, or not even want to have a wedding? A little bit weird, huh? Because I always thought they came as a pair, marriage and a wedding. Now that I'm grown, my perspectives have shifted. Marriage and wedding are two separate things. I actually don't know if I want a wedding anymore. To me, eloping sounds more appealing than having a wedding, just because eloping seems more intimate. The most important thing in a marriage is the unity, the bond between two people, the commitment you have for each other. The thought of a wedding actually makes me kind of anxious. I'm not even gonna lie. But obviously I am still single, so that is a topic that will be discussed with me and my future husband when the time comes. Even though I'm just a girl, I'm also a woman. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You can keep up with me on my Instagram and TikTok at Maria X Antonette, MARIAXANTONECCE. Every episode will be released on Spotify, Apple Podcast and YouTube. Any inquiries, you can email info@mariaxantonette.com, and I will see you in my next episode.